Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dietrich, and today we are test driving a 2024 Porsche Macan. This is pretty much just a base model Macan as far as the powertrain is concerned. We have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 261 horsepower, 295 torque. We have a 7-speed PDK dual clutch transmission. We have a full-time rear biased all-wheel drive system. And at the end of the day, we have a relatively nice car to drive. My major complaint about this car from a driving perspective is it just doesn't quite have enough power. And don't get me wrong, it has very reasonable power for what you want it to do. It's not underpowered by any stretch of the imagination, but for a Porsche with a $72,000 MSRP, which this car has, it is not fast enough. It just isn't. It could use, I think that this car should have a minimum 300 horsepower for the fact that it costs 72 grand. And I understand the Macan is aimed at a little bit of a different sliver of the Porsche market, and these are people who are potentially more interested in Porsche looks and Porsche badge than Porsche performance. But oh Lord, they sure are charging money for the Porsche looks and the Porsche badge. So it seems like it wouldn't hurt them to put a little bit more of the Porsche performance in there. Apples to apples, this thing has to be $10,000, $15,000 more expensive than a similar BMW, Mercedes, or Audi, if you want to compare it as far as features and performance are concerned. And I just don't know that that's enough to justify it. This car has a lot going for it. It does look very nice. Obviously, it is a Porsche. It's built in Leipzig, however you say that properly in Germany. It feels incredibly tight. The steering is very responsive and very accurate. The car feels like a quality product. Like it does, the way it's put together, just construction-wise, the subtle things, it does feel like it's a step above a BMW X3. But not a $15,000 step above a BMW X3. I think if this car were $62,000 with the same equipment instead of $72,000, I would consider it, as crazy as this sounds, a really good value at that money, because you do get the little intangibles that Porsche gives you, and then you could say that the performance is on par with the price tag. But at this price point, no, needs more engine. And again, it's not like it's slow. It's just not quick enough for a $72,000 Porsche. But other than that, there pretty much isn't any room for complaint with the way that this car drives. It's easy to see out of. The ride is composed and the handling is still very good. The seats are comfortable. I love the transmission. PDK transmission's amazing. If I push this little M plus minus button on the steering wheel, I activate the manual shifting mode, and then I can use these paddles and just woo, woo, woo. If you have one of these cars, or if you're planning on driving one of these cars, if you want to get the most out of a dual clutch transmission, you have to kind of understand what's going on and how to talk to it. So this is a 7-speed dual clutch. So what we have is one transmission that does gears 1, 3, 5, and 7, and a secondary transmission that does gears 2, 4, and 6. And then you have 2 electronically controlled clutch packs. So right now I'm in 5th. So the car's computer brain will get another gear ready for me if it thinks it knows what I am going to do. So it can either get 4th ready if it thinks that I'm going to downshift on that secondary transmission with the secondary clutch pack, or it can get 6th ready with the same secondary transmission and secondary clutch pack. And if you try to communicate properly with it and work with it, you'll get very responsive shifts if you're in the manual mode. And every time I think it's a good idea to do a test drive on the Southern California freeways, it always proves me wrong. But let's see. I'm gonna give it some throttle. We're gonna get into this carpool lane. It's me and Jesus. And then, so my foot's down on the gas. And as I pull this guy sees the papaya orange Macan coming his way and he gets out of the way. As I pull the shift lever, because my foot was down on the gas, the transmission reacts immediately because it thinks that I'm going to go into the next higher gear, that I'm going to upshift. Now, if I brake, well, I'm in 7th, so there's only one gear to get ready in 7th. But if you brake, it'll get the lower gears ready. So I have my foot on the brake, and it just snapped off 4 shifts like it was nothing. I love a dual clutch transmission. They're so cool. They're so cool. Certain modern automatics just really, I love very much. A good dual clutch transmission like the PDK in this Macan is fantastic. I love the ZF8HP that they've used in 18 million cars. That's fantastic. And specifically, I'll give a shout out to Mercedes' new 9G Tronic. That's a fabulous transmission too. Some of the other ones are a little iffy, but those are so good that it almost makes me not miss a manual in certain cars. A manual in this car would make no sense, just because nobody would buy it. And don't go and go, I'd buy it if it had a stick. No, you wouldn't. You'd try to get a used one in 5 years for way less money than it would actually be worth. Although they did make the first and maybe even the second generation Cayenne in a manual transmission, which is kind of crazy, but God love them for it. BMW did the same thing with the first and the second gen X5s. So you gotta love the enthusiasm out of the Germans, but yeah, the market unfortunately does not support such automobiles in this day and age. There's a Porsche. The handling in this car, I mean, this is obviously, you know, not a challenge for handling for almost any car, but I've driven so many different cars through this exact curve at this exact speed that even it's like you can feel like, oh, okay, the chassis is really well tuned. There are things in this car that definitely make it worth more than your run-of-the-mill BMW X3, Audi Q5, Mercedes GLC, Lexus RX. Like, if you want the driver's car out of all those, yeah, it probably is this, but you have to pay for it. And the engine's a little not strong. But as you may have noticed earlier, it definitely will get up to speed and it does perform. I just feel that it's lacking based on the price point. That's my only complaint. It's a Porsche. Don't really get much tire noise out of it. I get a little bit of wind noise at highway speeds, but it's acceptable. And the chassis just hugs the road surface. That little kind of pavement hump in the middle of that curve, it just floated right. Not floated's not the right word. You just hugged it. Hug's the right word. See, when I had my foot on the gas doing that, and now it's telling me to upshift, and it didn't do it quite as smooth. So let's go full throttle. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna put it back into automatic mode. If you push this M plus minus mode again, then you put it back into automatic mode. Because that's a ticket for a ticket. Ha! That was funny. Anyways, I'm sure a cop would let me go as long as I have this GoPro strapped to my head. And just so you know, any speed displayed, since this is a car that was built in Europe, is in kilometers per hour. So that's another thing to please keep in mind. And with all that being said, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching my video on this Porsche Macan. It is a very nice car to drive. I just wish it had a little more power. And I will do a full review of this car as well if you'd like to see all the details and cargo measurements and styling and all that fun stuff. I'll put a link to that in the description and in the comments. And once again, thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.